Hello my gorgeous beans and welcome back to the channel. Okay, listen, before I say anything else, I know this video is late and I'm sorry. I got into a little bit of a design drought and had a small mental block with the island that I really had to break through. So it took me a little bit longer than normal to actually continue with the island from where we left off in the last video. But nevertheless, progress was finally made, and so here we are with another adventure on Azor, a Dodo Airlines summer resort island as a collaboration between my husband Taylor and myself. The latest episode on his channel went up this past Friday, so make sure you go check it out. But with all of that aside, let's get back into the shenanigans. The first thing I knew I wanted to tackle was the pseudo beach, but mainly the area where it will transition from said beach to the more jungle vibe we're bringing in on the right side of the island. So I started with some terraforming, some waterscaping, and started pathing more fake water since I really wanted to use this reference in this corner as kind of a transition area. It looks like an oasis and I love it. Once I had the initial shape down, I filled in the rest like coloring in between the lines. Nice. And then planted various trees before dropping down a nice shiny boat. From there, I kind of wanted to figure out that cliffside, so I did some more waterscaping, more terraforming, and then we had a nice little cliff. It's not perfect yet, but for now it works. I started to erase some of the previous water so I could reshape it and make way for a little pathway with a gazebo. And at this point, I started to get really excited. Yes, I know I hardly started, but the motivation and inspiration had started to come back, which was exactly the kickstart that I needed, so yay. A small lunch break and then went right back to decorating our little oasis, starting with a rock, several mounds, a hammock, and more trees to fill up the surroundings, which is when the area really started to take shape. Just needed a couple more details, trees, and some friendly critters to bring it all together. I filled this little corner with some trees, bamboo, and miscellaneous items, and would you look at that, isn't it looking pretty? At this point, I decided I would have to extend the sand all the way up to the end, so I went back in with even more sand, and I also covered up that ugly, weird edge with bamboo fencing and a couple items where it didn't quite match up. A couple coconut trees, a little cozy tent area, and a skip to the next day to check if all the trees were growing in nicely, which they are. I skipped a couple more days and stunted a couple of the trees, so there's just a little variety. Cube taught me to be shy, and then I started to work on the peninsula, which is attached to the town core area, by placing some sand pathing, filling that in, and I started working on a layout. I'm using this picture as my reference here since it's very blue and a fishing market seems suitable. But I might change this area in the future, who knows. The setup isn't bad, but I kind of wanted to fit in a lighthouse on the peninsula too, so I took the stalls back down and started adding some terraforming so the lighthouse was on a raised surface. I added some storefronts to cover up the cliffs, nice, a couple wind turbines for the vibes, and miscellaneous items to fill up the area like crates and barrels. And then it was time to bring the stalls back again with several fish items, a table for items that I didn't have in my inventory yet and then maybe forgot about. Oops. I also added a little dancing gyroid before finishing up the area and skipping a day. It's a small area, but it's really cozy. However, I am not completely in love with the layout, but for now I like it. However, this does mark the town core side of the island done. Hooray! But that also means that all that's left is the right side of the island, the jungle side of this island, and it's an area I know I might struggle with, mainly space-wise. At this point, I realized that I still had to find a permanent spot for all of the villagers, and also both Nook's Cranny and Able Sisters, let alone the features I still wanted to include myself, like a pool and a bar. So it was going to be tough. But you know what that smells like?
It smells like fish.
What? No, it smells like victory.
I've never heard of that fish.
Anyway, I continued terraforming next to the oasis to finish up nicely with some upper cliffs and waterfalls here and here. From there, I started pathing a little bit of a zigzag, which might look a little weird, but I saw this picture and I really loved that idea for the secret beach, so we're gonna do something similar. I added the fencing, planted and placed a couple trees and shrubs before decorating to the side with a desk and pathing a little corner for some snackies and drinks while jamming to some tunes. I also decided to add a porta potty because, you know, you gotta go, you gotta go. Anyway, I also added a bench to rest your tushy on, just in case of long waiting times, and a couple items to bring together the check-in desk. Nice. Then I decided the porta potty space was really cramped and I didn't love it, so I chopped down the walls, added some bamboo vibes, and then opened up the area even more so I could fit in a couple trees, because the space they need to actually grow is stupid. I added a couple more trees around the area and on top of that cliff, and also adding some more pathing before skipping a couple days for the trees to be fully grown. So pretty. In hindsight, something that was supposed to be a very small filler area ended up being much larger than intended, but it does add so much to the resort vibes to me, so I do like it. After this spot, I kind of started to lose ideas again and was kind of walking around like a headless chicken a lot. So I took a small break to refresh my noggin and then went right back to work. The first thing I did was adding a small river next to Blather's tent with a teeny tiny bridge, and I did a little terraforming and waterscaping to the right of the airport, where I also placed Nook's Cranny just before our second riverhead. From there, I pathed around the building and towards the water before skipping a day so the building is fully moved to its place. Nice. I asked Tom for a bridge, realized I didn't have enough bells for a bridge, still placed said bridge, flew to a Nono Island, flew back, sold a royal inheritance to the twins, and finally paid for, you guessed it, the bridge. Whew. Then I started decorating the area with some plants, trees, shopping baskets, a street lamp, and also decorated the beachfront following this reference. A couple more trees, and then I decided I wasn't really vibing with the fence, so I took it down, changed it to kind of a bike stall, and finished off the area with a bamboo partition. I love how this turned out. It might be a little cramped, but I think it worked for the island for sure. And Static seemed to agree with me on that one, so that was nice to know. And then we saw Hornsby crack under pressure trying to catch a bug. Poor guy. But then I had an epiphany. How could I possibly create a Dodo bird island without including an Easter egg, or reference, however you want to call this, to one of the best and incredibly iconic movies from our childhood? And this secluded place seemed perfect. I added a couple trees, a little fencing, and used a cool custom design for a little dirt before adding the star of the show, watermelons. A bunch of watermelons. From here, I leaned into the farm side of things with barrels, burlap sacks, and a couple tools to take care of said farm. It's a super small area, but really necessary in my opinion. I just love it for the if you know factor for anyone who will visit the Dream Address in the future. And then we finally had the fateful encounter. Lobo had a thought bubble and asked to move out. He was never a keeper, so it wasn't too hard to decide, and we let him go on his merry way. See you another time, Lobo. So naturally, that means it's time for my love and the head of villager recruitment to join us once more to find a new friend for Azor. Taylor uploaded the shenanigans of this villager hunt this past Friday, so make sure you go check it out, or feel free to pause this video, go watch his, and then come back right here for the immersion. Oh hi, did you watch it? You did? Nice, and welcome back. Let us get back to the chaotic world of decorating our lovely Azor. First things first, I moved Able Sisters across the bridge and skipped a day for the building to be moved. But I have a gut feeling she won't exactly stay there. For now, I pathed towards the entrance, planted a couple coconut trees, and moved a villager out of the way to another beach before skipping yet another day. At this point, I started walking around a little frantically since I didn't really know where and how to continue. But we have all of this space left, which is a lot less than intended. I knew I wanted to add a pool, I knew the villagers still needed permanent spots, and I knew the rest of the island had to look good. I I really wanted the other half of the island to be a little more wild and natural while also having a dedicated spot for vacation houses. But I think I might have to sacrifice one or the other to make it all work with the space we have left. But it's all good, we will figure this out together. I started digging up a couple trees and accidentally woke Cube up from a deep slumber so I can find a better spot for his house on the Dodo beach. I tried a couple spots before settling on the corner next to the oasis. Cube will be our little beach guard. Is that ironic because he's a penguin? Yes. And? One day skip and a couple bamboo partitions later and his house is looking nice. I changed the trees around a little, added some items, and went back to the other corner to fix what I had destroyed. It did end up looking much better than it did originally with a little tent and some trees, so that's pretty neat. I skipped another day to make sure all the trees I had planted were growing in nicely, which they were, and that meant the Dodo beach was also finally done. Yay! So, the town is done, the Dodo beach is done, we started on the jungle area with a ferryway and the shops. So where do we go next? Well, next I decided to work on the campsite that I totally did not forget about. What? Using this reference picture. Patty yelled at me, and looking at this campsite build, I thought it was super bulky for this area, and though I loved the concept, I didn't love the execution for this particular space. So after contemplating what I'm doing with my life, I distracted myself from the campsite by working on the terraforming in the upper right corner. Just a little shaping here, adding a little there, and in that time I decided to take down the current campsite build and start over. So I dug up all the trees, demolished the incline, and moved a villager's house to the cliffs I just created before skipping a day so all of this can be processed. I then moved another house, placed an incline going towards those houses, and skipped another day. Now we have 2 more villagers with a permanent spot. Where's the others gonna go? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. Just kidding. I took down more of the campsite cliffs before realizing I should probably, move it first. So I did that, placed another incline going up those other cliffs, and skipped a day for that to be done. And now, here we are. Cliffs are gone, and I started over by continuing and expanding the cliffs we had done previously around Blather's tent into this large square. I added some partitions to check the spacing and finally placed the campsite again. This time though, it is here to stay. Oh, look at this little flyover update. It ain't much yet, but it's definitely getting there. Butch then encouraged me to keep going, so I added some more partitions, trees, and skipped a day for the campsite to be fully moved. I bathed down some bamboo slats around the campsite, and if you're curious about who's visiting the campsite, it was Freya. From there, I also added some sand pathing, planted more trees, and started decorating around the campsite with some miscellaneous items such as a barrel and a drink, before skipping another day to check in on those trees. I changed around the decor a little bit, but at this point I'm pretty happy with how Campsite 2.0 turned out. If anything, take this as a reminder that if you have a build that you're not fully happy with, never be afraid to take it down and start over. You never know if you come up with something even better, or sometimes even something as simple as changing one item or the pathing can make a huge difference. But this is where I left it off for the day, so see you tomorrow. Hi, it's tomorrow. You ready to get started? I kicked off the day by moving Henry's house to where Abel's used to be and skipped the day. Alright, listen up. It is time to get down and dirty. At this point, I was super excited and really heckin' motivated to finally figure out where I wanted the pool and the lazy river to go. This reference picture is another one of the main reasons I started this island in the first place, so I was not going to stop until I had a spot. I couldn't simply not create it, So let's do this. Flora was curious about what was going on, and girl, listen, I don't know either, okay? I started laying out the border of the river with these tiles, figuring out the shape and size until I realized the space I had would simply not be enough. So I moved Henry's house again to have more space. And now look at all this space. Oh my gosh, so nice. Anyway, back to figuring out the shape of this pool I went, and after a lot of trial and error, this is the shape I roughly ended up with. I added a rounded cliffside in the middle to check the spacing and decided I wanted to make the spacing 1 square wider and taller. So for the last time, I erased the place designs and expanded it by 1 square. With that finally done, I could start decorating with some trees and Faith, don't do it. I swear to the gods, don't do it. Girl. Of course. Why do you hate me? Truly, what is the science between villagers always plopping their little tushies down exactly where you're working? Without fail. Every time. Faith, please. Anyway, I added more rows of tiles below the pool so there's some space to chill in loungers, and started working on the centerpiece with a little sand, a fountain, and a pool item in the corner to act as a hot tub or the area where you actually step into the river. I added a little more sand to the center before placing down these cute floaties here, here, and here. Nice. Following the reference, I placed down this tent since I like the vibe, and added this Cosmo shower since you always see something similar at every pool, and it's cute as heck. One more plant to finish off the center island before starting the pathing process around the pool. And wait, who is this? Tiller, who's this man?
What? Oh. You weren't supposed to see. So I don't know who that is. Nope.
He wasn't on our dreamy list.
What? No, that's crazy. So, like, can we keep him, or like do it? Like, he's already here. We don't want to make him homeless.
But we had a list.
Yeah, but I can't read.
Fine. He is pretty cute, I will admit that. Anyway, so I moved Lyman's house, I guess, next to the watermelon farm so he can be our little farmer and maintenance man. Nice. From here, I wanted some kind of border to separate the pool from beyond, so I used these cute concrete designs on a bunch of simple panels to line the edge. But of course I didn't have enough, so I ordered some more, and since I'd have to wait for those in the mail, I also moved Able Sisters to the beach below Nook's Cranny instead, and then skipped a day. I customized those panels, plopped them down, and added the yellow roof Zen fencing behind it for that pop of Dodo Airlines color, before skipping another day because I ain't dealing with this nasty rain. I'm using these gazebos as like beachfront chill spots. It'll make more sense later, and started pathing away from the pool. So we finally found a spot for the pool and finished it. Caught Tiller with his Lyman shenanigans, and here we are. We still have lots to do, but little by little this island is getting done, and I'm loving the results so far. The next task would be to work on the transition area that's past the pool, but that's something for tomorrow's Mircea to worry about. Alright. Let's do this. I started by laying down some blankets and other custom designs before adding back the gazebos with some of these cute curtains to make them look like beach houses. A couple snacks at the pool, some rocks, and that was the pool area pretty much done. It came out really well considering the space we had for it. I only added a couple more miscellaneous items such as a lifeguard chair, a sandcastle, and this little tire. And then this is where we are actually done. Yay! So it was finally time to start on the transition area between the pool and back to resident services, starting with a little fencing behind Nook's Cranny. From there, I started pathing from the campsite, the watermelon farm, and the plaza until we came here to a crossroads. This is kind of how I decided to connect them all, with a little roundabout, as you will. I planted a couple trees around the path and then decided what to do with this gap. I was calculating in my head if I could fit in a diagonal river with a bridge here, but quickly decided I wasn't even going to try, so I added a little river next to the campsite instead. Placed the bridge, rounded off the corners, and would you look at that, it's so nice. Going back to this little roundabout, I placed a large vine, a couple trees, custom designs, and a little bench with a bicycle because why not? I skipped a day so the bridge could be built, and walking through the area, it really is starting to come together nicely. From here, I completed the pathing leading up to the bridge, planted a couple more trees, took a little siesta. I mean, what? I placed some more items such as this tree, this fire, a little yellow fencing around Lima's house before skipping another couple days to admire all of the trees. This area is definitely looking nice. At this point, I really needed to figure out where these villagers were going to live, so starting with Hornsby, I moved him next to the lighthouse and fish market since I love his house for that area. And I also skipped a day so I could do a little pathing and add a couple items around his house, like this anchor and a cactus. I decided to move all the remaining houses to the same beach, skipping days as I go, and then we had a campsite villager. Now, I always assume the villagers are ugly villagers, but I always check them anyways, and oh my god. It ended up being one of my favorite villagers and also one who was on our dreamy list before we settled, and my heart broke. To me, Gala is so stinking adorable and I love her so much, so I really didn't want to leave her behind. Okay, so like, hear me out. We know Tiller deviated from the final dreamy list with Lyman because he loves Lyman. So like, what if we did the same here? He probably wouldn't even notice, right? Right? So anyways, don't say anything to Tiller. Hey girl, how you doing? Ironically, the first villager she wanted to replace was Lyman. But ideally, I want her to choose Canberra. So I reset the games a couple times until she finally chose Canberra. Yay! So naturally I told her to do it, and Gala was moving to the island. Hooray! I'm actually so stupidly excited about this. She's one of my favorite villagers, so I couldn't be happier for this fateful encounter. Welcome to the island, you cutie patootie. From here, I went back to moving villagers, and up next was Henry. Since he's a frog, I decided to move him next to the pool, so he can be our little lifeguard. His house has been moved 5 times now. This poor guy. I skipped a day and then did similar pathing and decorating as Hornsby's house before decorating the transition area a little more with this bench and other miscellaneous items. It's looking real nice. One teeny tiny island later, and it was time to turn this upper cliff from this into this. Nice. I finished up along the river, and then this whole transition area was finally done. Looking back at this, I definitely will add a little more blue for those Dodo Airlines colors, since it's mainly a lot of yellow right now, but regardless, I love how this little area turned out. From here, the only thing I did was some pathing after the bridge, like this. This area is definitely a lot smaller than I had intended as well, as most of the remaining houses will need to go here somewhere. But once again, that is a problem for future Mircea, as that is where we are leaving it off for this video. I really need to think about that area, but it is one of the final big areas left to do, so we are so close to completing this island. And that is something we will accomplish in the next video, along with releasing the long-awaited dream address. For the amount of struggle and hurdles I had to jump over during this video, we actually made a lot of progress, and I'm super happy with how it all turned out. And I am stoked we also actually found a spot for the pool. Once again, I'm sorry this episode is later than usual, and I'm sorry if this one was a little more chaotic than usual, but regardless, I truly hope you enjoyed this one just as much as the previous ones. There's still a bunch to figure out in the next episode, like the remaining villager houses, a bar, and a bunch of transition areas and filler areas in little nooks and crannies that are left untouched for now. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and thank you all so much for watching. Once again, also a massive thank you to you all for the support shown on this series. Tiller and I are very grateful, and we appreciate all of you. Feel free to like this video if you did enjoy it, and always feel welcome to subscribe to both Tiller and myself so you don't miss a thing, and to get the next Animal Crossing video in a notification box near you soon. Make sure you all stay happy, hydrated, and healthy, and then I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!